Alright, so this has been a learning curve. I am not a solar industry person. I am a person with a photographic memory and the ability to just naturally understand data a bit more than the average bear, if you will. So, my batteries, a lithium iron phosphate battery has a top voltage of wireless charging of like 3.65, but then it's got a resting 100% voltage of around 3.45. So then by the time you get to around 3.0 or 2.8 volts, it's pretty dead. So there's not much voltage differential. Like the discharge curve is just very flat because you're only going down 0.5 volt per cell. So if that's 0.5 volt per cell and that's 16 cells, then what is that, 8 volts? So yesterday I put this thing instead of the state of charge control because this stupid thing was always telling me that I was stuck at 15% when my batteries are basically fully charged at 3.5 volts. So JK is a terrible company. They totally suck. Their manuals are bullshit. Even when they have Americans help translate their manuals, the manuals are still bullshit. They don't tell you anything about how to work this screen or what it does, or it's malarkey. It's total malarkey from start to finish. Anyway, what I did was I put this in lead acid mode so that it would just read the voltage of the battery pack overall, and then instead of communication over the Ethernet cable and telling it and having it fully talk, it was just running in blind mode, so it would monitor the voltage, and when the voltage hits a certain point, we can assume that the battery cells are at around 2.8 to 3.0 volts, and they're depleted. So, when we were running in intelligent mode, this thing kept assuming that my 300 amp hour battery pack, as it went from 3.45 volts to 3.35 volts, would deplete from 100% down to 15% state of charge, and thus shut this off. So I've been sitting here scratching my head going, I got these runtime calculators. My overnight load is 500-ish watts, so like and under 500. So it should last like 27 hours. Like, what the F is going on around here? So then I found out through some kind folks on the internet who were able to tell me in no specific terms how dumb I am. No, I'm kidding. But they said, hey, did you top charge your battery? So apparently when I got these cells, I didn't mate them all together in parallel, bring them all up to 3.65, and basically overcharge this battery slightly so that they were all matched. What I did instead was I programmed the BMS and this unit to basically charge these guys up to that 3.65 and hold it there for several hours, because if I was to use a bench tester to do that, this would take 2 weeks to fully charge these batteries at 3.65 volts at 5 amps or whatever the bench tester is limited to. No thank you. Anyway, so I did the top balance with this, and then here's the stickler. I just went and told the BMS that it's hooked up to a 1200 amp hour battery. I found this out from a guy on the internet, so it's so stupid. Of course it works. I changed it to 1200 amp hour battery, and all of a sudden it recalculates the SOC just like this dude on the internet says. So then I swap it back to 300 amp hour. Now it's got a pretty strong ballpark. It might be off by about 15-20% for SOC, but we'll see so far. And now I put them, instead of dumb mode, I put it back in communication mode. So now the Ethernet there is running up to there, and now they're talking, and now this thing 52.5 volts, 61%, which matches my gauge. It's currently charging at 0.1 kilowatt, and it's got a 300 amp hour capacity. So the whole reason my system was shutting off from 4 to 9 p.m. was, honest to goodness, because the state of charge calibration was totally foobarred, and in order to do that, I had to do something totally batshit crazy, which was just lie to it and tell it it's hooked up to an enormous battery bank, and then tell it the truth, and then it just recalculates. So that's fun. But yeah, I was really pissed off because it was telling me that my stuff was it was be like 3.3 volts in my and my house was shut off, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So now that we have a properly functioning battery that can properly tell what its state of charge is, it's going to be a whole different ball game. We are easily going to last overnight instead of it being like a little bit of a guesswork. Because this has 500 watt discharge at around 27 hours, and we only need to go from like 4:30 p.m. to about 8 a.m. So that sounds like 12 hours. So if we had a 1,000 watt discharge, I think it said it would last like 14 hours. I'm going by memory. And then if we had a 1,500 watt load, it would last about 9 hours. So I think between the overnight being 500 watts, and then we'll wake up in the morning, we make a bunch of tea, we run like we're getting a gas tea kettle, but for right now we have the electric tea kettle, and we cycle that like 2 or 3 times, and so far so good. There shall be updates, because this has not been easy. I've got this battery brand set to 0, so this EG4 thinks it's talking to EG4 batteries, but it's not. It's talking to a BMS that's using a programming language that is native to EG4. So it's great to see things come together. It's however frustrating that the BMS can just be such a janky POS right out of the gate. It wouldn't balance, it wouldn't do this, the basic settings sucked, the communication protocols are just all over, and so many of the settings you have to be smart enough to know what the heck you're looking at, because if you don't know what you're looking at, and you don't know what you're setting to or why, you're hunting in the dark, and there are far too many settings for you to just be hunting in the dark, changing, guess and check. So this has been like probably 2 or 3 days behind a computer, racking my brain, Google searching, and doing everything I can to un-F this system, and fingers crossed, looks like we might have actually did it.